Never for a second should we think that our parents' mistakes, sorry Dad, not saying you've made any mistakes, are destined to become our mistakes too. An important thing about mistakes is that we don't have to be the ones who make them in order to learn from them. Do not ever be afraid to try something new and change something just to make it better. You'd be surprised if you just go out there and try something different, change something, don't stick to the way it's always been. You can make a huge difference, not just in your own life, but also in other people's lives. Pioneers, leaders, innovators, they're the ones who discover better ways of doing things. They're the ones who make a huge difference in this world, making an easier and safer place for the rest of humanity. Don't be afraid to step outside the box, take a risk, try something new and exciting, because you will never know how much you're capable of until you try.
Okay. Allow yourself room to grow. Well, Joel, you're a biologist. Joel Staster's a friend of ours. Growth. Am I correct in this statement? Growth is one of the things that is characteristic of all living things?
Yes.
Okay. So if you're not growing, you're not really alive. So think about the opportunities that you have in your life every day to grow, to change something, to go in a different direction. Now, again, I'm not a biologist, I'm a chemist, so I might be stretching this, but my perception of growth is in order for true growth to take place, usually it's initiated or preceded by a period of not necessarily dormancy, but quiet time. You have to allow yourself quiet time to reflect, to take stock of where you are in your life, to recognize the things that need to be changed, if there are things that need to be changed, the things that, or the opportunities that you have to really grow in a given direction. So if you're constantly operating in crisis mode, where you just bounce from one thing to another and you don't allow yourself the time to sit down and reflect, to have that quiet time, you're missing the opportunity to grow. Yes, if you're dealing with crises, it is important that things get done. Things have to be done in a timely fashion. But if you take a moment to reflect, put the crisis aside. Maybe there's a situation here or an opportunity for you to learn something and to grow as a result of the crisis that you're experiencing. But it starts with that quiet moment, chance to reflect. The other thing is that in many cases, especially in plants, they reach a point where they can grow no further without actually having to cut something off. Pruning is an extremely important part of the growth process, and it's true in our lives as well. In many cases and many times, there are things in our lives that we have to prune, that we have to let go of. We have to cut them off in order for us to really grow and achieve the things that we're capable of achieving, to learn new things and to experience new things. So we can't be afraid to prune our lives, get rid of the things that aren't really important, that are keeping us back from growth.
The number 7 on my list is keep an open mind at all times. Almost every situation I've encountered in my life, be it friends arguing about something, politicians insisting they're right and that the other side is trying to prevent progress, or any other disagreement, there's always multiple sides. For example, two of my roommates, one of them got a dog, and the other was allergic to dogs, and they never really communicated beforehand, and then they were trying to figure out what to do with the dog afterwards, and so I'd get calls from one roommate saying, oh, the other roommate did this, and I trust the roommate to be honest, but at the same time, they're a little bit biased, and then I get a call from the other roommate saying, well, this is what actually happened. I've learned, being a mediator for many years, that the truth is usually somewhere right in the middle. And individuals are complex, unpredictable, they're fascinating, they're full of surprises, and they're almost never what you expect. Don't ever judge people until you've gotten to know them. If you do, you're going to miss out on some absolutely amazing people. My cousin is in Wisconsin right now doing an internship as an occupational therapist. And she was over at a friend's house playing poker the other weekend. And the people she was playing poker with were extremely, I think bias is the best way of putting it. They were saying all sorts of bad things about Obama and saying that he was a Muslim and all sorts of things like that, and saying it in such a terrible way as it was a horrible thing. And I have a friend from one of my classes last semester who was a Muslim. She's a very good friend, who's one of the people who was checking up on me all the time when I was in the hospital, seeing how I was doing, seeing if there was anything I could do anything she could do to feel better, to make me feel better. And it's not who you are on the outside. It's what's underneath that really, truly makes a person. And until you get to see that, you should never judge. In my opinion, closed mind keeps out the things that you don't agree with, and it keeps you out, keeps you away from people that you're not exactly sure of. But at the same time, it also creates a barrier against happiness. 300 years ago, I guess 250 years ago, the Declaration of Independence, the Founding Fathers stated that we have a right to the pursuit of happiness. If you have a right to something, go after it. Don't just sit there and be closed-minded and sit there in unhappiness. If you want happiness, go chase it. Be open-minded. You'll find a lot more happiness that way.
Well, Kevin said he doesn't know if I've ever made any mistakes. My number 6 is make mistakes. And yeah, I've made my share, although I'm not going to admit to any of them right now. There's a couple of quotes that I think summarize this. The first one, show me someone who's never made a mistake, and I'll show you someone who's never accomplished anything. You only accomplish things by putting yourself out there, by pushing the envelope, by being willing to take chances to make advancements. And if you're out there at the forefront of doing things, you're going to make mistakes. It's part of the process. It's part of the territory. Now, the second quote is one of my favorites. The only real mistakes we make are the ones from which we don't learn anything. There's one of the definitions of insanity, I think, is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. Well, this is just another way of saying that. Mistakes are your friend. Okay? They're the things that teach you what works and what doesn't. And that's part of the life process. It's part of growing. There's a story, Kevin and I watch a lot of movies, and it probably drives Diane nuts because we're constantly throwing out quotes from this movie or that movie, especially Monty Python. But there's a movie from, National Treasure. There's a story in the movie National Treasure where they're talking about Thomas Edison trying to invent the light bulb. And he tried, I think it was several hundred different ways of creating the incandescent bulb that didn't work. And you could call those failures or mistakes, but the perspective as it was presented in the story in the movie was that, says, I didn't fail, I just discovered so many ways not to make a light bulb. But if you don't try them all, you don't necessarily find the one that does work. So if you stop because you're afraid of making mistakes, you're never going to find the way to make that light bulb in your own life. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. They're the only things that we really have that we can truly call our own, and in many cases they define who we are.